Live in just a second here. And we're live. All right. Welcome back to WMMA Scene Report, weekly show going over the latest and greatest in the women's mixed martial arts scene. News, announcements, fight reviews, fight previews. We do it all. Got a lot to talk about tonight. Not so much in the news front, but everywhere else. So we're going to hop right into going over this past weekend's fights, and there were a lot of them. All right, first up, 2019, PFL 2019, number 7, the playoffs. 2 lightweight fights. Larissa Pacheco defeated Sarah Kaufman via unanimous decision. So this one was a surprise. Definitely did not expect Pacheco to outclass Kaufman like that. And it wasn't so much that she totally outclassed her. It's that she was definitely a bigger fighter who was skilled enough to hold out against Kaufman. And Pacheco had a good game plan. A lot of lay and pray in the first round, kept distance in the second, and then tied her up again in the third round. So nice job by Larissa Pacheco. And it's a nice effort by Kaufman to get this far, moving up 2 whole weight divisions too. And then in the second fight, Kayla Harrison defeated Bobby Joe DL by submission due to armbar, 3 minutes, 32 seconds of the first round. If you've seen one Kayla Harrison fight, you've seen most of them, and this was definitely one of those. She came forward, she got DL to the floor, she passed guard, got the armbar. Not a whole lot to talk about. So Kayla Harrison will meet Larissa Pacheco in I think on New Year's Eve for the finals of this. So, and it's a rematch. Harrison has already defeated Pacheco before. So next up, Combate 46 in Tucson. There was a ladies fight. Didn't get to see it, but Lucero Acosta had a successful pro debut over Valerie Quintero, also debuting. That was at 140 pounds. Acosta won by unanimous decision. Next up, late Friday night, early Saturday morning, depending on where you live. Rising number 19. All right, first ladies fight. 112-pound catchweight. Reina Kubota defeated Alexandra Alvare Carlos via TKO punches of the first round. This was an absolute slaughtering. We'll just leave it at that. And then at super atomweight, Sahi Ham defeated Miyu Yamamoto via TKO due to punches on the ground in the second round. Ham had very nice takedown defense in this fight, which was my biggest concern for her going in. Yamamoto just was not setting up her takedowns at all. She wasn't turning a corner on them. She wasn't chaining anything together. Just not a good night for Miyu Yamamoto after looking so good against Kana Sakura a few months back. UFC on ESPN Plus number 19, or AKA UFC Tampa, had 3 ladies fights. Opening fight of the night at flyweight, JJ Aldrich defeated Lauren Muller via unanimous decision. This was a case of superior technique defeating someone who was naturally more athletic, and volume. Aldrich was throwing 2-3 punches for every one that Muller threw. She just did not let her hands go enough. Next up, got to go all the way to the main card. Amanda Hebus defeated Mackenzie Dern via unanimous decision. This is a case of superior striking and sticking to a good, solid game plan, defeating someone who was highly hyped but just did not have the skills to get the job done. Dern has no takedowns and was mostly just using big punches to knock her opponents to the ground and then submit them from there. And it did not work against Amanda Hebus, who was way technically superior on the feet and Yeah, it was a mess. She made Duran look amateurish. Now, Duran did just come off pregnancy like 4 months ago, but not enough time to make a comeback, I think. And then in the main event at strawweight, Joanna Jędrzejczyk defeated Michelle Waterson via unanimous decision. This was a shellacking, basically. The fight stayed on the feet almost the entire time, and Jędrzejczyk outclassed Waterson every step of the way. One Championship Century, Part 1 had 2 ladies MMA fights. First up, at 115 pounds, Itsuki Hirata defeated Rika Ishige via submission due to, it says armbar, but I'll get to that in a second. 4 minutes, 41 seconds of the second round. Hirata was the stronger striker. I mean, every fist punch she threw was hurting Ishige, and then she was basically more superior on the ground and stronger there as well. This says armbar. It could have been the straight armbar, but it also could have been. She also had Ishige's heads and a leg scissor, and that was pretty tight as well. So who knows what exactly caused Ishige to tap. Ishige did threaten an armbar in the first round, but wasn't enough. And Hirata floored her a couple times with strikes. So then in the main event, Angela Lee defeated Xiong Jingnan via submission due to rear naked choke. 4 minutes, 48 seconds of the 5th round. This is a darn good fight. I mean, really good fight. Almost as good as their first fight. Maybe not quite as good, but almost close. And that was a fight year contender as well. Bit of controversy there over whether or not the suplex Angela Lee used to get Xiong to the ground late in the 5th was legal or not. But either way, she got the submission. So congrats to Angela Lee. Retained her 115-pound title. And then at One Championship Century Part 2, which was later in the day on Sunday over in Tokyo, same weight class, Mei Yamaguchi defeated Jenny Huan via unanimous decision. Huan looked way better on the feet, but I thought Yamaguchi got enough takedowns and did enough on the ground to justify the getting the decision win. It kind of sucks for Jenny Huan. She went from 5-0, now she's down to 5-5, and this fight was pretty close, and she was pretty much picking Yamaguchi apart on the feet. Just not good enough to get the win, I guess. Juan showing a lot of improvement, though, on the feet. She spent most of the year in Thailand training Muay Thai and even getting in some pro Muay Thai fights over there. And it really showed off in her striking. All right, so that was it for this weekend's fights. It was a bunch of them. Man, it was hard keeping up, too. A lot of frequent naps this weekend for me. So on to the news. Not much going on here. First up, UFC has announced a bantamweight fight between Ketlin Vieira and Irene Aldana for UFC 245 December 14th in Las Vegas. So Vieira's been out for quite a while due to injuries. I think ACL maybe. I can't remember what the extent of that was. But she's back. She's taking on Aldana. This is Aldana. Vieira still ranked pretty highly because she was on a very nice win streak before she had to take time off. This would be an interesting stylistic matchup. I would say that Aldana is technically better on the feet, but Vieira has very good judo and wrestling, so makes for an interesting stylistic clash. Road FC has announced 2 ladies fights for the Young Guns 45 card on November 9th. At 63 kilogram catchweight, Park Ha-jung is taking on Park Na-young. Both of them are 0-1. And then at strawweight, 2 debutantes, Lee Eun-jung taking on Park Ji-soo. Then UFC bantamweight, Carol Hosa has been forced to withdraw from her scheduled bout against Julia Avila October 26th in Singapore due to a knee injury. UFC is currently looking for a replacement. I meant to write down what exactly is wrong with Host's knee, but if you follow her on Instagram, you'll be able to see what that is. So that sucks. Singapore card possibly down one fight, but the UFC is looking for someone else. And then finally in the news, Aspen Ladd tried to get her loss to Germaine de Randami in California overturned. She was denied 3-2. And it seems like her biggest argument at the time was that Herb Dean stopped the fight too fast. Stopped it early because she's a woman. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to say anything else about that because I don't want to. No, I'm not getting into that crap storm. All right, next up, let's talk about the UFC rankings update. Let me see where are they at. Nope, that's not it. Okay. So at strawweight, some moves. Ioana Jędrzejczyk moved up one spot from 5 to 4. Displacing Nina Ansaroff, moved her down from 4 to 5. Carla Esparza moves up one spot to be tied at 7 with Michelle Watterson. Don't know what to make of that. And then Amanda Ribas, after only her second fight in the UFC, is now ranked at number 15, which just let that tell you that hype is sometimes more important than substance. You beat a hype fighter, even if they're unranked, you can get ranked off of that. Meanwhile, you have Yan Xiaonan, who has won 4 fights in the UFC, won all 4 of them, and can't get ranked. Up at flyweight, Laura Murphy moved down one spot from tied at 8 with Roxanne Modafferi. She moved down one spot to number 9. Hasn't fought in a while, so maybe that's why. No explanations for that one, obviously. At bantamweight, Juliana Pena moved up one spot to number 4. Aspen Ladd moved down to number 5. Okay. And then Macy Chiasson was tied at number 11 with Lena Landsberg. She moved down to number 12. Well, that's a couple weeks late. That one makes sense. The Ladd Pena thing does not make any sense. So, yep, UFC rankings. That's how they roll for you. And then we'll move on to upcoming fights this week. All right, first up we have UFC on ESPN 6, Reyes versus Weidman, also known as UFC Boston. There is 2 ladies fights. First up at flyweight, Molly McCann, 9-2, taking on Diana Belbita, 13-4. I'm going with Molly McCann on this one. Normally, I would never pick Molly McCann. But you look at Belbita's record. You pull it up. She's 13-4. But you look at who her wins are against. Okay, let's just look at her last 4 wins. Debutante, 1-2. That's her last 4 wins. That's the So the combined record of her last 4 wins is 1-2. That's what you call can crushing. So I'm going with Molly McCann on this. Never seen a Belbita fight, but the way Molly McCann has been looking lately, her last couple fights, definitely going with her. Which brings us to another flyweight bout on the main card. Macy the Future Barber, 7-0, taking on Jillian Savage Robertson, 7-3. This is an interesting fight. So you got Barber, who her second fight at flyweight after moving up from strawweight where she missed weight majority of the time. Taking on Jillian Robertson, who is 4-1 in the UFC. She started off on The Ultimate Fighter. Yeah, her official record in the UFC is 4-1. The only loss coming to Mayra Bueno Silva, who I don't think Silva's fought since then. That was back in September of last year. But she has wins over Emily Whitmire, Molly McCann, Veronica Macedo, and then Sarah Frota, who was huge compared to Robertson. And on the juice, by the way. She was on the juice with Sarah Frota. So Robertson is definitely a skilled ground fighter. Her stand-up's okay. But, man, she definitely earns the Savage nickname on the ground. Barber reminds me a lot of Watterson in the stand-up in that she uses her kicks more than her punches. And they're not the most damaging of kicks. If she can get you clinched against the fence, she can do damage. On the ground, we've never seen her off of her back. But if she's on top, she is heavy with the ground and pound. But against mostly smaller fighters. Even her last fight, her flyweight debut, was against another strawweight moving up in J.J. Aldrich. I'm picking Robertson on this one. I'm not 100% on this, but I'm picking Robertson. I think she has the experience needed, and she's fought a bigger variety of opponents than Barber has. So I'm going with Jillian Robertson. Sunday morning in the U.S., early Sunday morning, 3:30 a.m. This will be on UFC Fight Pass. It's Pancrase 309. Couple of ladies fights here. We have Rika Emiko, 10-6, taking on Anna Carolina at flyweight. Go with Emiko. I'm going with Emiko on this one. Yeah, just going with Emiko on that one. And then we have Yoko at bantamweight. Yoko Higashi, 4-1, taking on Tatiana Fontes, who is 3-1. Looking at the records here, Yoko Higashi has not beaten anyone with a winning record. Whereas Fontes has won again in one fight. Her other best or second best win would be someone with a 500 record. You know what? This is completely guesswork, but let's go with Fontes on that. So Rika and Fontes for Pancrase 309. Didn't have time to study any of them. And then Tuesday, or excuse me, this will be Monday, 11:30 p.m. Late Monday night in the U.S. So 11:30 p.m. according to Topology. This should be streamed on YouTube. Is going to be Deep Jewels 26, all ladies event. First up is a 97-pound fight between Yasuko Tamada, 16-10-3, taking on Kotori Tamiya, 1-0. I'm going with Grandma Tamada to win. Next up at super atom weight, 108 pounds, Nanaka Kawamura, 2-4, taking on Otoa Nagao. We're taking Kawamura. This is a tune-up fight for Kawamura. Then also at 108 pounds, Pan Hui, 5-4, taking on Mizuki Furuse, 6-7. I've never been impressed with what I've seen from Furuse. Pan Hui isn't great, but she's definitely good enough to beat Furuse. So we'll take Pan Hui, also known as Kai in Japan. At 125 pounds, Yukari Nabe, 6-3, taking on, what is this girl's name? I have her real name written down somewhere. Well, Gio Chai the Rocket from Thailand making her pro debut. No, she's fought before, right? Yeah, I think she's actually 0-3. Obviously, that's a gimme fight for Nabe. At atom weight, 105, we have Jong-un Park, 5-6-1, taking on Emi Sato, 4-3. Can't look past my bias on this one. I'm a big Park fan. I'm picking Park. Don't have to if you don't want to, but I am. At 139 pounds. Okay. Reina Miura, 11-3, taking on Tatapa Junsuk Plum. Pro debut. Obvious gimme fight for King Reina. At flyweight, another gimme fight. Kana Watanabe, 7-0-1, taking on Hyun Khan, making her pro debut. So, obviously, Watanabe. You can be dumb not to. Now, here come the two most interesting fights. I thought Watanabe would be the co-main, but at atom weight, Suwon Boonsorn 3-2, taking on Yoon Ha Hong 3-4. Hong is strong for an atom weight. She used to fight at straw weight. She trains hard. She's good on the ground, which is where Boonsorn has been taking almost all of her fights lately. Now, if Hong is smart and has watched Boonsorn's last fight, Boonsorn always tries to tackle her opponent or trip him and tackle her opponent to the ground, and then work to the back and either work for an armbar or rear naked choke from there. Hopefully Hong has watched that. If she can do that, if she can avoid that initial rush, she can give Boonsorn a lot of trouble on the ground. Question is, will she? Boonsorn looks like she's on hormones and has man strength. I'm going with Boonsorn on this one. Especially if she's smart enough to keep it in stand-up. I wouldn't go to the ground with Hong, but she's real confident. She's a BJJ blue belt, so she's got that blue belt mindset that she's a world beater. So she tends to ignore her lifetime of Muay Thai. But we'll still go with Boonsorn. And then main event, atomweight title fight. Tomo Maesawa, 12-10, taking on Emi Tomomatsu, 15-14. This is the closest fight on the card, I believe. Both are middling fighters in their division, but Maesawa is the champ still. Emi Tomomatsu was the champ at 115 pounds, but that was purely by technicality. I got to go with Maesawa on this one. She's only lost to better fighters lately. I mean, she is on a 2-fight losing streak. One of them is to Kana Asakura, which is no shame. I mean, Kana's good. And then the other loss was to Sahi Ham, who's number 1 in the division in Ryzen back in July. Before that, she was on a 3-fight streak, including winning the title. Tomomatsu is, I think, coming off 2 wins over Hikaru Aono and Mizuki Furuse. Aono, she was way more experienced then, and Furuse just isn't that good. Before that, she was on she had lost 2 straight to Jong-un Park and Shiyu Park, and Shiyu Park was 0-2 at the time. So, Emi Tomomatsu is either hot or cold. She is the definition of a hot and cold fighter. She'd probably come in cold against Tomo Maesawa. So we're taking Tomo Maesawa to retain the atomweight title at Deep Jewels 26. All right, so that's it for all the news and results and the upcoming fights. So I want to talk about, if you saw the thumbnail before you came in, I want to talk about One Championship and their controversies. And I want to talk about this because, I like One, and I'll repeat this later. I do like One Championship. I want to like One Championship, and I want them to succeed, especially for the sake of the fighters, because they put on some darn good fights. I mean, there aren't many squash matches in One Championship. There are some, but they're not nearly as prevalent as they are in, like, say, the Japanese promotions. So I want One to do good for the sake of MMA in Asia. But I think one of the big things that's holding them back, especially like from getting, better attention, at least as far as North America goes, is there's so much shenanigans going on over there. And I've decided to highlight, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 of them, really, and go a little bit into depth with them. And I feel like some of these would definitely not work if they ever decided to move, like, say, stateside or expand into Europe. It seems like they want to try to move into stateside. I mean, that's why they have the deal with TNT. And some of the stuff they're not going to get away with if they decide to come stateside and have to deal with athletic commissions. All right, first up, the weigh-ins. Okay, they used to be public, or at least open to the press. And then, unfortunately, that one Chinese fighter came in, collapsed on a scale, or nearly collapsed on a scale, and then later died that night. So One went into PR mode. They decided to change up everything, as far as their weights go, their weight and their weight classes. They changed the weight class names. Everybody was going to move up a weight class. Why? Because they brought in hydration testing. Specific gravity tests saying that if a fighter came in and they were shown to be dehydrated, they would not be able to fight. So they moved up everybody up one weight class as far as weight goes, but then they moved the names up as well. So the lightweight class moved up to 170 pounds, and the argument was that everybody's fighting hydrated, everybody's fighting at their more natural weight class. And here's where the real controversies came in. Okay, from then on, all the weigh-ins, the testing and everything, the results, everything became super secret squirrel. Their weigh-ins were closed off to the media and everyone else. They stopped releasing the results. Even fighters reported and coaches reported that they never really knew their results. All they knew was whether or not their fighter made weight and if they passed the test. They wouldn't even know if what their opponent weighed and how their hydration test went. So that asks the questions, why everything have to be so secret? And another thing would be, is everyone really weighing their natural weight with no dehydration? And don't want to pick on her, but Angela Lee showed up an Instagram post last week leading up to the fight and saying that she would lose up to 20 pounds before going into the weigh-ins. Okay, so she would start from 135, go down to 115, fully hydrated. It's hard to believe that someone is losing 20 pounds like that much percentage of their body weight, and it's not water weight. That's kind of big even for a straw weight. So to go from 135 to 115 without losing water weight, it does sound hard to believe. So the weigh-ins was something that really just did not sit well with a lot of people, especially in the MMA media. Next up, the rules, specifically the suplex rule. First, suplexes were legal. Then someone got spiked on their head and knocked out, and they decided to make them illegal in all forms. Now, shout out to the bodylock.com. they wrote an article giving a whole timeline of what happened. So let's see. All right. So at one Iron Will on March 24, 2018, Kritsada Konzrachai would score was initially a first-round TKO victory over Robin Catalin via slam and punches. Then it was later overturned after the event due to the illegality of the slam Konzrachai used. One founder, Chatri Sityotong, released a statement on his Facebook following the overturning of Konzrachai's victory. The statement, which has since been deleted since Saturday, read as follows. After careful video review of the fight under multiple angles, it has been deemed that an illegal suplex was utilized. At one championship, all variations of suplexes are illegal, and any attempt or intent results in an automatic disqualification. Robin Catalin will now be awarded the victory and his win bonus. It will also be ruled a loss via DQ for Kritsada Konzrachai and his official record. All right, now the second DQ for suplexing came in September of last year. Christian Lee used one against Edward Kelly. The bout was stopped, and it was automatic disqualification. And then the third time this happened was at the One Hero Series in China in June. Hu Yong suplexed Hu Yizibai in the third round of their flyweight contest. And that fight was stopped as well. Now, then you get to this past weekend. Angela Lee used a suplex against Jingnan Xiong. They straight up called it a suplex in the commentary booth. But after the fight, it was being argued that it was legal because she had landed, or Xiong did not land on the back of her head. Let me bring it down. Okay, it says in Jingnan's case, she landed more on the right side of her head. In the Hu Yong fight, one commentator, Mitch Chilson, stated that suplexes under the head, neck, or spine are illegal. This wasn't mentioned during Lee versus Jingnan 2 after the slam was landed, but was addressed as the back of the head, specifically being the illegal part of slams following the end of part 1. Chatri said, I have not seen the replay or anything like that, so I don't know. Did she land on her shoulder? I don't know if it was a full suplex or a side suplex. I have to review the footage or get the competition team to review the illegal footage. Here's the thing, though. He made an earlier statement that all suplexes and variations of and intent are illegal. Let me go back up to the quote. All variations of suplexes are illegal, and any attempt or intent results in an automatic disqualification. Well, apparently that rule got changed, and Angeli is arguing that it was legal. Angela Lee told Fansided, we pay very close attention to the rules of one championship, and when I went for my takedown, I lifted her up and I threw her front side, so she would land on her face, not on the back of her head. I'm pretty sure that everything is on camera. And, I'm looking forward to the end of the fight in a clean way. And I'm not going to be a dirty fighter and try to take advantage of any situation. Okay, so when was the rule changed? And was everyone notified? Because it seems like Seong Jingnan's corner was not notified because they were protesting during the fight. There was a point in the fight, and I mentioned this in my review video of the fight, if you want to check it out later, that there was a point where the commentators were actually quiet enough. You could hear one of her cornermen shout out, "You're not even enforcing your own goddamn rule." All right, so this now begs the questions. When was the rule changed? Who knew about it? Why was the rule changed? Is it only being changed when it's convenient for the favored fighter? And everyone knows that one favors Angela Lee. I mean, all I want is, be transparent with the rules. It's hard to even find their rule set on online. So, I mean, the lack of clarity just makes you look more suspect. And the same goes with the scoring. They really don't outline how they score the fights. It's supposed to be a whole fight scoring. It was developed by Matt Hume, same guy that developed the scoring for Pride, which wasn't always super apparent how they scored the fight either. So make the rules transparent, make the scoring transparent for everyone to understand. It would be a lot less controversial. All right, next up, the referees. How are these referees trained? Who certifies them? How are they certified? And one thing that should be mentioned is all of the referees and all of the officials work directly for one championship. Now, they work in countries without athletic commissions. So I kind of understand that. But how are these people being trained? We don't know. There's no third-party oversight for the referees, for the judges. Who knows? Now, let's say, for example, another organization that with their referees, Road FC in Korea. Their referees all work for them, but they have specific training for their referees, and their referees have to spend time refereeing their amateur events before they're allowed to referee at the pro events. So they have training steps involved. Who knows how it works with one? And then I want to talk about specific referee. Seems to officiate a lot of the Lee's fights, and this was even mentioned. I was listening to Jack Slack earlier, brought it up that it's always seems to be Olivier Coste. This guy is the most annoying ref ever. If you are in a submission, he is in your face saying, "You give up, you give up, you give up, you give up." Stop it. You don't need to be involved in the fight that much. Okay, if a fighter's in a submission, they're either going to tap or they're going to fall asleep. That's when you intervene. You're not supposed to be asking them, do you give up? You can tell them, hey, you got to fight back or I'm going to stop. But other than that, you shouldn't be asking, do you give up? Do you give up? You give up? You give up? After a while, it sounds like he's basically telling them to give up. And like I said, Coste seems to officiate the majority of the promotional favorites fights. All right, next up, the commentary team, specifically Michael Schiavello, the voice. Okay, this guy used to be a good commentator. Used to be. Now he is a full-on shill for one championship and their favorite fighters, okay? His hyperbole has gotten out of control. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, we talk about how much the UFC and stuff hyperbolizes fights. Nothing compares to Michael Schiavello in full-on one championship mode. And this guy doesn't hide his favoritism for certain fighters at all. I mean, he was always a bit of a favorite picker, even in K1 or other MMA promotions. Always a bit of a favorite picker. But, man, he doesn't even hide it anymore. Doesn't even try to hide it. Okay? People accuse Rogan of having favorites. No. Michael Schiavello is a straight-up favorite picker. Watch him officiate a Stamp Fairtex fight. You'd think the guy has a hard on the entire time for Stamp Fairtex. Maybe he does. I don't know. And then on Saturday night, he straight up called Angela Lee the darling of one championship during her fight. Like, are you serious? Okay, first of all, even if it's true, and it basically is true, you're not supposed to say stuff like that as the commentator. That's just stupid. Like, make your bias any less obvious, why don't you? Or any more obvious, why don't you? Like, even if a promotion is supposed to have favorite fighters, they're not supposed to just say, yeah, he's our favorite fighter. That's just so stupid of him. So, Schiavello, terrible. maybe not really controversial so much. He's just bad. And then, as far as One Championship addresses fighter management. Now, earlier this year, they put in rules to try to weed out predatory management. Now, it was a good idea, but their whole execution about it wasn't that great. Like, they wanted to restrict fighter managers who manage fights for One Championship. Basically, they tried to limit it to only managers in Asia. And they had a bunch of other criteria, some of which made sense, but some of it didn't. Like, if you're having a lot of international fighters come in to One Championship, you're not going to have managers that live in Asia, period. Or you're not going to be able to restrict it to managers living in Asia. They also wanted, I think, like so much college time, so much years of experience in martial arts, practicing. It's like I can understand having rules trying to weed out, the predatory managers and the scumbags. I just don't think that the rules they had in place did a good job of it. On the bright side, allegedly, now this is allegedly, no Ali Abdelaziz in One Championship. So that is one bright side. Now, here's where it gets really into the controversial part. I mean, really controversial. Meanwhile, One Championship started their own One Elite agency. So now some of their own fighters that are fighting for them are being managed by their own management agency. I mean, come on, guys. Clearly, there's no conflict of interest there. I mean, none at all. I mean, it's nothing like, UFC parent company Endeavor managing some of their fighters like Michelle Watterson. Clearly no favoritism like that going on with One Championship managing some of their own fighters. Clearly not. Okay? All right, so that was the 6 points I wanted to point out. Now, all of these problems, all these controversies are fixable. Some of them are easy. Some of them aren't. But some of the steps they can take. Transparency. Okay? Stop making everything so mysterious about your rules, about your scoring, the weigh-ins. Be a little more transparent. Now, they have started that a little bit with the weigh-ins. 2 of their past 3 events had live-streamed weigh-ins. So that's a step in the right direction. Another step they could take is third-party oversight. If the UFC goes overseas and there's no commission where they're going, they pay the excuse me, they get the Nevada State Athletic Commission to oversee everything for them. If when Bellator goes to Europe, they have the Mohegan Sun Commission. Not the best, but it's something. It's oversight. So if One Championship were to seek out a third body oversight committee to oversee everything and train the referees and everything, that would go a huge step in establishing them as a far more legit promotion. And if they ever decide to hold a show in the U.S., they're not going to have a choice. So they might as well do it. And then consistency. Just be consistent with the rules. Be consistent with officiating. Be consistent with everything. Consistency is a key to a good image. Now, here's the caveat of all of these. One has to want all of these things. But it seems the company is happy doing what they're doing. I don't think they're that worried about their image. I mean, they're paying people to write articles for them for Forbes. They're flying out journalists from the States, apparently, or at least they've been accused of providing journalists from the States free trips to go and report on them. So I don't know. So one has to want these things. Whether they want them or not, it honestly doesn't seem like they do. But I wish they would, because like I was saying earlier, I like one championship. I like the fights. When it comes down to it, the fights are the most important thing. They put on good fights. I mean, they put on action-packed fights. There aren't that many boring fights there. There aren't that many squash matches like there are in most of the Japanese promotions. Yeah, the majority of the fights are great. So I want one championship to succeed. I want them to do things to help them succeed, and I want them to make money. I mean, they're way in a hole. I mean, I forget how much money they're said to be in a hole. I mean, I want them to actually start doing good. So that's why I really want to talk about this. Not because I don't like one championship. I like them. I want them to do well. But man, if I can pull out and write 2 whole pages of crap that's wrong with them, and this was written in one afternoon. If I can do this in like 2 hours of free time at work, then that says a lot. So I really want one to, listen to what people are saying about them and take it to heart and start moving in the right direction. Anyway, that's it for the show. Let me know what you think. Chat was quiet again tonight, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. Likes always appreciated. And hey, if you haven't yet, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMA Now, the best, fastest growing women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. And hit that bell for notifications so you know when new videos are coming out. I'll try to get 1 or 2 more out. Try to get a couple fight reviews out later tonight. But we'll see you next time. There we go. Hit that end.